Testing, testing. Well, here I am at Wickerson Studios, and I'm completing and continuing with my 1001 scripts for Grasshopper scripts. However, getting farther into this as I've trickled through certainly the path mapper and the relative items and all these wonderful tools for gaining access into programming and simply scripting into the nodes, I find it more and more essential to learn Python. So I'm putting this one out here as a new direction, which may seem indirect at first. It's kind of like a fork in the road so we can end back up where I want to be. And I'm going to be taking a look at the Python for Rhinoceros 5 primer. Maybe I shouldn't put this into series. Maybe I will. What I'm going to show you is obviously, we're not going to be jumping around playing in the Grasshopper window. I want to go back to the Rhino script. So if you're in Rhino and you click on here and you go down to Rhino script and you can edit and run in that, you can go to the Python script and edit that. And in clicking that, you're going to end up with this window open. So what I'd like to do is start going through that Rhino Python primer that David RUTTEN put together and cover everything after chapter 4 that can actually be scripted into here. This is in an attempt that later we could return to our basic Grasshopper 1001 definitions, and this will be 128. And I may just run this video alongside until I can get here. So these are preparatory videos until I can actually take that script from what we're dealing with and input it into here and get it running in Python. Now, not all scripts are intended to do that, so I'm not going to go crazy on that. Like, here's an example of the first script that they have when you get into chapter 4. And as they say within it, if I just grab the document, which is an incredible thing to see, and run over it, I think what they say, well, it's hard for me to find where it was initially. Might be back a couple of pages. Sorry for this, but this is a new, I still work on paper, but after the first 3 chapters, they say this concludes the boring portion of the primer. We now have enough information to actually start making useful scripts. And even though they haven't told us about loops and conditionals and the really awesome stuff, we'll have to wait to chapter 5 to do that. So I'm going to start with this. And basically, you go in and you will get in the habit of what you need to do within your Python node. As you jump into here, you're going to find as you bring out your Python node into Grasshopper, and I just wanted to show you the title of this, even though this was in the way. This will be, it will be the maths. Oh boy, there's a little bifocal tool stuck in there as well. This will be the math section. There'll be 128 scripts and up dealing with the ghPython nodes as we can go through the Rhino primer, crediting Daniel RUTTEN. So to be applied to ghPython scripts as I become more and more proficient in it. And I'm doing that so I can end up writing better in Python. And I think this is an absolute necessity to go here. So we're 3 minutes in. I'm telling you the new direction I'm going. I'm going to follow my likes and my subscriptions to see if this is a direction I want to put up videos. This video I'll pop up to explain that. And here's an example of it. So import Rhino script syntax as rs and import time because I'm going to be using that module. This script will rename an object using the current time system. And you can see that when I go in and I have an object here, it has no name. This object has no name. If I bring in another object, put in another cube here, it has no name. And I've just got the properties tab open so you can see that. If I run this script, you will see it will make a string of the object ID, that's my variable, that will get object, and it will say in the command line, select an object to rename, and then it is only choosing bits and pieces of this, and they'll tell you in chapter 4, because I would suggest having the primer alongside you or on another screen that you can read through it. And I do both because I'm still somebody who likes to use the pink and blue and pencil. Highlighters and pencil to make notes so I can actually memorize things. And I'm glad to say that my nephews who are working in math and computers are still doing their homework assignments on pencil on paper, even though they're Python based. Anyway, we continue. It is an if operation that says if this is true, if the string object is not none, like if it exists, set the string new name to time, colon, so you're putting a string in there and concatenating it with string set to the module time, pulling up the local time. And as soon as I run that, you're going to see we get this object name swapping this one for the other one. So the object name will then become, boom, and we hit that play on the script. We choose an object, and there you go. You've got a name on it, and even though it's hard to see here, which it definitely is because it writes it out in the Properties tab in not a very convenient way. On their samples, it does, but you can see the name has then been transferred into, the time is this year, this month, exactly when I did it all the way down to the day. And I guess you could take that and print that and have that dated on the object of when you made it. I'm not sure why you'd use the script. It's not one I'm really into, but I have it there. And we'll go back into Rhino once I find out where it is. There we go. And that script works. And then I do have a B part on it, which they put together, which was kind of nice. Let me open that up. Open section B of that, and they show you that when we become more and more proficient, you're going to realize you can limit those other lines. So they take lines 9 through 11 and they condense it into not just saying this, they pull it all into one line of script, which is nice. The Rhino script object name will now be the string object ID set to the string time colon plus concatenating that into the string of time at local time. So you get more and more condensed. Your code becomes harder and harder to read unless you become more and more proficient in seeing it. My goal is to cut and paste this and find a way in time, if necessary. This script, I don't find it's that necessary. And when I do this, you'll find that I go farther and farther into scripting that into the Python nodes. So we will have Grasshopper, but we have to take a little side path now. Obviously, for me to get into the Rhino script, and I've seen in some examples from Mode Labs that they deal in Rhino Common, which is totally new territory for me. But if you've done any processing or if you've done any Python in and of itself, if you've done any PyChart, if you've had other interpreters that you've worked in, that's fine. Let's get in the habit of understanding what all the Rhino script is, because as you go in here and hit help on the Rhino script component help, that help doesn't do too much for me. But if I go into here on help and I end up help Rhino syntax and I have samples here, I can really start playing. And of course, that's popping up on my other screen. It's setting it up. I can use this whole resource of everything I'll ever need to know to find out how I use the language in Rhino script, which will only help me in my Python nodes in Grasshopper. So I'm going to leave that at that. That's my new direction. Whether you like it, well, let me know you like it, and I'll continue with it. If you don't like it, and you say we just want to see geometries and things made in Python, that's fine. I'll listen to you then, and I might leave this series on the side. But I think this is essential to run this video series, pairing it with going deeper and deeper into these. Hopefully, by the time I get to 1001 scripts, I've just, got my mind around a whole bunch of things that I never had at the beginning of the scripts. I was thrilled to learn them, but I do believe learning Grasshopper is a mix of learning Rhino, learning Grasshopper, learning Python, learning Rhino, learning Grasshopper and Python. And obviously, I'm seeing from others that C# is a language that I'm going to want to get into. Let's jump back into here for a second. You can see there's many other scripted things you could be dealing with. You could be dealing with C#, you could deal with Python, and then there's the VB script if you want to come back into that. Anyway, thanks, Daniel, RUTTEN, and everybody else involved. I should give credit to them. This whole Python Rhino series first edition was done as a primer by Daniel RUTTEN, but this is Skylar Tibbetts, Arthur van der Harten, and Steve Baer, whose name I see quite often on a lot of things online. Anyhow, thanks for watching. That's an explanation of the direction I'm going in the next little while. I hope you like it, and we'll see where we end up. Bye-bye.